Hello, everybody. Happy February, or correction, April 1st. It's April Fool, so I tricked you. 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. And if you're wondering what the show is about, we highlight coaches, assistant coaches, players, refs, broadcasters. All of the talent in Connecticut is right here on the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. And we have a special guest here. He's the assistant coach at Fairfield Prep, Garrett Hickey. Coach Hickey, I appreciate you taking some time out, although with this quarantine, you've got all the time in the world.
Absolutely. I appreciate you asking me to come on. I've been trying to find some things for me to do, so thank you for having me.
No problem. Now, I think first thing, and I asked my fellow guest yesterday, my first guest, Julio Toro from the Waterbreaker Academy Spartans, about how he's dealing with the quarantine. I ask you the same thing. How are you dealing with being in isolation?
It's definitely a little bit different. I'm trying to, I have my teaching job, so I'm busy doing stuff with getting my kids set up with lessons for social studies for middle school and stuff, and then just trying to stay as active as possible. We have a home gym here at the condo, so I've been kind of trying to do some workouts and get outside when it's nice out like today and go for a walk and just get some fresh air and try to keep my mental health and my physical health as tip-top shape as possible, for sure.
Now, are you keeping in keeping in contact with the players from the Fairfield Prep basketball team? Because I'm sure they're probably antsy just because of how the season ended. So how are you keeping in contact with them?
Well, we had a meeting, I think probably about a week ago, with the three juniors who were going to be our captains for next year. Coach Papali and I had a meeting with them, and it's still, things are kind of up in the air with spring workouts and what we're going to do, like how long is this going to last into the summer. And then I, try to kind of talk to, especially the two seniors. They're obviously, their season and their careers got cut really short from this past winter, but also they both play a spring sport. Aiden Harding was going to be a member of the crew team, and Max McGillicuddy is a fantastic lacrosse player. And both of them, their kind of seasons for their spring sports are up in the air too. So we've been trying to just kind of keep it light, keep in touch with them and make sure that they're doing okay and stuff like that.
And it's a shame that their season had to get cut short, but also that they lost a chance to be able to play their spring sports. And I can only imagine how they feel. So what did you tell them when you broke the news about how the season was over? And then to piggyback off what you said about the seniors for next year with the workouts, how did you in some way prepare them? Because who knows what the future will hold?
Right. Well, to take the first part of that question, I mean, our two seniors, they're the most, Max and Aiden were like the most mature young men that I think could ever have handled this situation. Obviously, like we found out the day, I think it was a Wednesday, it was a Tuesday because it was after our first round game, and we were planning on having practice, and we instead had a team meeting, and obviously like the guys were upset. They were kind of confused, frustrated. There's a lot of emotions, but I remember like specifically those two, they kind of, they got upset a little bit. They handled it in their own way. And then at the end, we kind of talked to them and they were like, hey, can we just go down and unlock the gym and just play? And that's how they kind of ended it. And they, I said that, usually on in a regular season or, a regular season that went to the end, if you won your last game, it meant that you won a championship. So I said, you guys are in rare company at Prep because you guys won your last game of your careers ever. So they handled it really, really well. And then to go off the second point, our three juniors, they're workaholics, and they were down there in the gym then too, and they're raring to go. One of them is a fall athlete, plays soccer, so I'm sure he'll be focusing on that and stuff during the summer. But the three of them, they're ready to go whenever we get the okay to get back to school or to get back into the gym and back into the weight room. So we're looking forward to that.
And hopefully that this can subside at some point so we can see the athletes play next year, but we just don't know what's going to happen. But let's look at a positive. You look at what happened. You won your last game, which, just like you said, doesn't happen. They went off on at least a positive foot. But then the year before, different story. You played against Sacred Heart, and I know I had an opportunity to talk with you. I talked with Coach Papali in his first year at the time with Fairfield Prep, and I have to admit, you gave Sacred Heart a run for their money. I think I wrote it down. You guys made 7 threes in that first half, and it was a close game. Now the second half was a little bit, you guys tired out, and Sacred Heart, it happens. They just kind of went over talent, but a lot of credit to Fairfield Prep. They really gave Sacred Heart a tough game that day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they, Sacred Heart is, they're always a really, really good team, a top team. And we knew going into that game last year, Coach Papali was saying it to the guys, like, we know we're going to play as hard as possible and we're going to leave everything out on the floor. And then between, the coaching staff and us, we knew that in order to beat a team like that, you're going to have to play a pretty much perfect game. And I thought when we went into halftime, I thought we had played a pretty good first half. And that's why the score was as close as it was. And, at the end of the day, you got to tip your cap to Sacred Heart. They did what they were supposed to do. And when March comes, you just got to win. And that's what they did. So, but they're always a really good team. And that goes back to, the days when they had Mustafa Heron. And
Yep.
when I first started my coaching career down here in high school, I was at Notre Dame Fairfield, and I went to Albertus. And, the year after I left Notre Dame Fairfield is when Mustafa Heron's team played Notre Dame Fairfield in that championship game. And I was there, and that was a one of the biggest or probably widest margins of victory in a state championship game I've ever seen. So they're always tough every year.
And you speak of Mustafa Heron, a man amongst boys in high school. And also, you alluded to you coaching at Albertus Magnus, my alma mater, so we kind of have that connection. You speak of a coach among other coaches, Mitch Oliver. I've always said, even when I was at the college, I thought he was the best Division III coach I ever saw just because I played baseball, so I was able to watch their practices before we practiced. And I came away astounded about his routine, his work ethic, how he keeps guys so focused on one task. I mean, you had a front seat to his coaching. What can you share without giving away too much?
For sure. I mean, I always tell people my go-to line is when I'm talking about Albertus and about Coach Oliver is that it's a D3 program, but it's run at a D1 level, and you really, when you go in there, you realize that he puts his heart and soul into that entire program, and me and at the other end, like he also gives people shots. I mean, for me, I in no way, shape, or form had any sort of resume before I started working at Albertus Magnus to make me a Division III coach at any school. And then Albertus is one of the top programs in the nation when it comes to D3. And he took me on in the staff, and I figured, I'm walking in, all right, I'll go and, wipe the floor if a guy falls down, or I'm going to go pick up a ball and make sure that the guys are getting shots up after practice. And the first day of practice, I remember, he threw me right into the fire, and he was like, take those, go. And from there on, every single day, it was awesome because every single day I was, actively a participant in practice and getting better as a coach and watching him and stuff like that. And I also felt like I was one of the players at the same time because I had to be on my game. I had to come to practice every day ready to go. And if you weren't, he was going to call you out on it. And you couldn't have, you definitely can't have thin skin if you're going to be on that staff, or if you're going to be involved in that program. And it's awesome because it keeps you on your toes, and you're always ready to learn. And you see it on the floor when they play. I mean, they face adversity and they go right at it. I mean, the championship game this year in the GNAC, they were down 22 points at halftime, and I remember like watching the game, and I'm saying I know exactly what coach is telling him in the locker room, because he goes, hey, the way we play, we're gonna in 5 minutes we could be up 2, and that's how it is, and it was a really, really great experience for the 2 years that I was there.
And you speak so glowingly of Mitch, and I really have to admire that because a lot of the coaches off of his tree have been so successful. I mean, look, there's a former player, Julian Sanders, who I think you met last year when you
Yep.
played against Sacred Heart. He's a former Albertus player, and now he is a assistant coach, JV coach for Sacred Heart, and he has
Hmm.
aspirations of being potentially one day, and I think he will, a head coach. So again, you just see the tree from assistant coaches to players, and that just speaks to what Mitch has done as a head coach because he's giving you the pieces almost like Bill Belichick with the Patriots.
Hmm. Absolutely, for sure. I mean, he and everything is outside of the season, especially when I was thinking about leaving Alberta. I mean, I thinking about it, I'm always like, when I first started coaching when I was 20 years old, I'm thinking in my head, oh, I want to be the next coach at UConn
Mm-hmm.
or Duke, just like that 10-year-old in the backyard wants to be the next MLB star or whatever like that. And then, you go to a place. I was at Notre Dame Fairfield with Coach Vinny Listowski, and he was great. And then I went and I actually coached a middle school team with Coach Larry Menta, who was an assistant coach at Southern for years. And then I went to Mitch, and I realized that you don't have to be at UConn to do what you want to do as a coach. And Mitch kind of opened my eyes to that. But then Mitch also opened my eyes to, if you want to run a program, especially at that level, the way that it needs to be done, this is how much work needs to be put into it. And I realized that was just at Albertus. And if you take that and look at, a UConn or something like that, it kind of not diminished my dreams, but it kind of brought me back to reality as to maybe that's not exactly what you want to do. Maybe it's you want to be a high school head coach, and you can run it like this way and do it. And when it was outside of the basketball season, Mitch was such a helpful person when it came to giving advice on where to go and what interviews to go on or whatever it was. And he was always willing to pick up the phone. And he still is. I mean, he's just a great guy.
And that's again, that's great. It's the ladder effect, kind of giving. He's worked so hard, and now he's giving back to his coaches and players. And like you said, it's you've gone different ways. It hasn't been the perfect door. It hasn't been the perfect straightforward. You're gonna go right here. It's taken you different places. But I mean, look, you've been a part of a lot of good. I would say really good Fairfield Prep teams. Just a couple bad lucks by matchups and so forth. You were with Mitch. You've met a lot of great players, and I think the future is bright for you. I think potentially, you never know. Maybe head coaching again could be back in your future. You never know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love where I'm at Fairfield Prep. I love the community. I love the family there. I love working with Mike and the rest of the staff there, and I love the kids. It's an awesome place to be. I'm definitely very lucky.
Well, Coach Hickey, we're running out of time. I figured get one more question in right before we end this. What would you like to tell? And I always like to end this with every person who's dealing with this quarantine. How would you like to tell the coaches out there who are dealing with this quarantine?
Well, I would say take advantage of this time to just get better. I to plug something that's going on right now. There's only a couple of days left, but the last 2 weeks on Coaches Tubes, there have been high school and college coaches and professional coaches from all over the world that have been putting up like 45-minute seminars. And so whenever I have free time, I'm just watching those and just kind of learning. The one positive thing about this kind of time and being a coach is the coaching community is very close knit, even though you might not have ever met one of these coaches or whatever. And so I've been talking to guys from all over the country, all over the world, and sharing ideas and sharing philosophies and stories, and it's been really awesome. And I don't think that, knock on wood, I'm hoping that this never happens again in our lifetime. But
Mm-hmm.
I think instead of dreading it and looking into the future and trying to figure out when this is going to end, I think it's best to just take it day by day and take advantage of the time that we kind of have that we probably most likely wouldn't if this wasn't going on.
Well, thank you, Coach Hickey. I really do appreciate this. And hey, if you had fun, maybe we could do this again sometime.
Absolutely, my pleasure. This was great. Absolutely.
Now, make sure you catch on Saturday, both on YouTube and other social media outlets. I'll be having a special guest from UConn. I won't give out the name because it's going to be a surprise, but he's a left-hander from Connecticut. You better catch us on YouTube. or myself and the special guest. So until next time, right here on Connecticut Sports Talent.